Hi, my name is Dr.
Gaukhar Baidildinova.
This video is a part of my lectures on evidence-based medicine and epidemiology. In this video about the journal impact factor, the definition, how to find, and critique. The impact factor reflects the citation rate of journal articles over a specific period. Typically, this is measured over 2 years or 5 years, but the 2-year period is more commonly discussed. On this slide, you can see the general formula for calculating the 2-year impact factor. For simplification, let's consider the impact factor for 2025. It's calculated as the ratio of the number of citations in 2025 of articles published in 2023 to 2024 divided by the number of articles published during these 2 years. How to find the impact factor. You can also find the impact factor of journals in databases like Scopus and Web of Science. However, unlike the H-index, the impact factor can be easily Googled. Just type the name of the journal followed by impact factor, and you'll find the information you need. The impact factor was originally used by librarians to determine which journals were more frequently requested by readers so they could place these journals closer together. Nowadays, the impact factor of the journal where you publish determines the perceived quality of your publication and, by extension, your standing as a researcher. Positions, grants, and bonuses are often allocated based on the impact factor. However, it's important to understand that the impact factor only reflects the citation rate, or, in other words, the visibility of a publication. It does not equate to the quality of the research itself. For example, specialized videos like this one will gain fewer views than makeup or clothing videos, even though the complexity and skill involved in making this video might be higher. So it's not always the complexity or skill of something that will determine its popularity. I also have 2 paid courses on Udemy. The Critical Assessment of Clinical Studies teaches how to read and critically evaluate clinical studies. It's a very great course. The same as my second course, Scientific Writing, where I tell all the nuances of how to write a scientific article or dissertation. Links are in the description box. What's wrong with the impact factor? It doesn't correlate with the actual quality of science. The impact factor doesn't truly measure the quality of publications, it only measures their visibility or how often they are cited. Citation distributions are skewed. Some argue that the impact factor can be a crude indicator of citations, as most articles will be cited around the average. However, citation data is almost always highly skewed. Most articles are cited very little, while some receive very high citations. For example, a few highly cited articles might skew the impact factor, while most articles in the journal receive relatively few citations, regardless of the journal's prestige. For instance, even if you publish in highly prestigious journals like Nature or The Lancet, it doesn't mean your paper will automatically receive high citations. Let's take a look at these histograms. Note, these are not great graphs. First, the x-axis for the number of articles is only labeled in the lower histogram, and it would make more sense to have the number of articles on the x-axis and citations on the y-axis, as citations are dependent on the number of articles. Also, the y-axes in the 2 histograms are the same size, even though the citation values are very different. Nature has a maximum of 80 citations, while Science has 70, and PLOS ONE only has 14. This visual inconsistency is misleading. In Nature, most articles are cited 15 to 20 times, but due to a few articles with very high citations, the impact factor of Nature is 38, while Science is at 35. This shows that the impact factor can be influenced heavily by a small number of highly cited articles, even though the majority of articles in these journals may not receive many citations. This can transfer the fame of those highly cited articles to all articles in the journal, even if they are of lower quality. Short time window. The short 2-year time frame for calculating the impact factor can make it very sensitive and variable. For example, in a crystallography journal, a single widely cited article caused the journal's impact factor to jump from about 2 to about 50, and then drop back down 2 years later. This short time window is also problematic because in many fields, it takes much longer for a piece of work to be read, synthesized, appreciated, and built upon by the research community. Even in rapidly evolving fields, such as biomedical sciences, it takes about 8 years for a paper to accumulate half of its potential citations. The short time window also favors quick commentary or revision studies, which may not be desirable when significant research and development is needed to produce results worthy of citation. The Matthew effect. This is when the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. High-impact journals attract more high-quality publications and vice versa. This only exacerbates the citation gap between journals, creating an unequal distribution of citations. Effective article type. Review articles are generally cited more frequently than experimental research articles, and methods papers tend to be cited even more. Although experimental articles are generally considered the most valuable, they are often overshadowed in terms of citation frequency by these other types of papers. The impact factor only measures citations, which is a rough proxy for quality, but it doesn't directly measure the actual quality of the research itself. When metrics like the impact factor become the main focus, they lose their meaning and become vulnerable to manipulation. Conclusion. Because the impact factor has been the only citation-based metric available for a long time, it has gained popularity as a measure of quality, despite all of its flaws. I'm summarizing the content of 2 publications and a guide from UCL. Of course, there's much more criticism of the impact factor that we haven't covered in detail. What do you think? Should we continue using the impact factor as a measure of quality, or should we move away from it altogether? Leave your thoughts in the comments section.